everybody. I'd like to introduce you to the most amazing garden here in York. It's called the York Bushland Garden. I'd like to introduce you to the head honcho of the Wildflower group. That would be Eric Ayling. Eric, how did you decide which plants you were going to put in the garden here?
The decision on the plants was really based around what would suit local gardens, and the focus was on local plants and plants from further out in the wheat belt. That's the theme that has really driven the development of the garden over the last few years.
Could you tell us a little bit more about this absolutely beautiful foliage flower? It's so pretty with its purple flowers. Is it a rare plant in the wild?
It is. It's Eremophila nivea. It is declared rare flora. Because of its natural beauty, it has become a very popular garden plant right across Australia. You'll see it everywhere.
So it's particularly suited to dry inland gardens, isn't it?
It is, yes. Being an Eremophila, it's really hardy.
This is an intriguing plant. It's got the most unusual leaves. They're almost like sandpaper.
Yes, they are, and it's actually known commonly as the sandpaper wattle. It's Acacia denticulosa, and it comes from northeast of here, out in the wheat belt. It is declared rare flora, but again, because it is absolutely spectacular when it's in flower, it has become a popular garden plant. We've been very fortunate to have Kings Park involved in the Bushland Garden. When they heard what we were doing here, they offered to propagate for us a series of rare and endangered plants. They include Tanasia glabripatella, which is a plant that you can only see here in the Shire of York. It exists in a couple of locations in York. What we offer in the Bushland Garden is the opportunity for people to see plants like this, because most people simply don't know where they're located.
Another important member of our Wildflower Society is Pat McGregor.
This is an Eremophila subterretifolia. We grow most of the Eremophilas from cuttings because they're difficult to grow from seed. And this is a fabulous one because it's got that beautiful green foliage and then it flowers all over the summer. And like everything else in the garden, is really tough and hardy. This is my favourite plant, Prostrantha magnifica, and you can see why it's called that.
Wow, it's just amazing, isn't it?
It's rather tricky to deal with.
From the wheat belt and inland WA. Eric, it's been a terrible lot of hard work to get this garden up and running. Could you tell us a little bit more about the history?
This site was originally a clay pit for brick making. The Meckering earthquake had a big effect on a number of buildings, including the Royal Hotel, which was emptied into the pit and the pit was closed over. Joanna Seabrook thought it would make a good place to have a bushland garden. The Avon branch of the Wildflower Society took an interest in it. Barbara Abbott, who had a native wildflower farm, and also Ian Crombie, who was the curator of wildflowers at the Perth Zoo, propagated a lot of the plants that you see in the Bushland Garden today.
I can't believe it, you've got so many rare and priority flora in the garden. This is an intriguing one.
It is. This plant, we're not entirely sure where it came from in terms of its propagation. It's Eremophila pinnatifida. It is only known to exist around Wongan Hills and Dalwallinu, further north from here.
This is an absolutely startling plant. It doesn't look like it belongs in the Australian bush. It looks like a hibiscus.
It's probably related. They're tough and hardy, although this does flower better if it does get a bit of water. We only use water here in the initial planting stage for the first summer. Then after that, things have to look after themselves.
Now here you have a eucalypt.
Yes, it's a Eucalyptus crucis or southern cross mallee. Suitable tree for smallish gardens. It doesn't grow big. If it gets out of hand, you can cut it right back and it will grow again. We don't have a lot of eucalypts, mostly small ones suitable for people's gardens. There's Eucalyptus torquata, where it's a goldfields mallee. There's lots of those around York. And Eucalyptus websteriana, which is another neat small mallee that flowers in the spring. Eucalyptus rodansi, which is another grey leaf eucalypt with lots of pink flowers over several months in the winter time.
Now this is an interesting plant. It doesn't actually come from York and the inland regions, does it?
No, it doesn't. It comes from down around Albany. It's a prickly beast and it is also declared rare flora. It carries its flowers underneath, and you'll often come along and you'll see the plants moving because there are birds underneath getting at the nectar. Quite a spectacular plant.
I understand this is not a rare plant, Eric, but it's really intriguing. It's got blue and pink.
The flowers start out with this sort of greeny tinge on them, and then as they open out, they get a bluey blush on them, and as the flowers mature, they turn more or less pink. It's just a stunning plant. The honey eaters love it.
This is an absolutely gorgeous colour.
This is a Melaleuca fulgens, one of the colour forms of it. This is apricot. They are incredibly tough, hardy plants that seem to thrive in the garden with little or no attention.
Here we've got a plant that looks like it comes from the desert.
It's one of the centre species and they grow right across Australia, very water-wise, and it is proliferating of its own accord. It's doing its own thing.
This is an intriguing plant, Eric. It's got little yellow tubular flowers. Is that an Eremophila?
It is an Eremophila. It's Eremophila glabra subspecies Morrowa, which for obvious reasons is found near Morrowa, and it is a threatened species. Because it's got so many flowers on it, it is a huge attractor of bees and also nectar-feeding birds.
I can get the most incredible perfume from this flower.
Yes, this is a Grevillea flexuosa. A lot of the native plants have perfumes, specifically the Melaleucas, but this comes from the Jarrah Forest area and is relatively rare.
The tangled Grevillea,
Tangled
isn't it?
Grevillea. And it is developing a few seeds.
So you'll collect those and grow more?
Yes, we hope so, but they're a bit like acacia seeds. You've got to be there on the right day.
So what keeps the volunteers busy in the garden? There must be a whole lot of work to do.
Weeding endlessly. In the winter time, pruning. We have spread a lot of mulch, which helps to keep the weeds down to a certain extent. Sell plants to raise funds. There's no shortage of work to do. It's Shire land and they have been quite supportive when we've needed them to be.
Pat and Eric, I think you've got an absolutely astounding success here in the garden. Have you had many tourists come and visit?
We have. It's served its purpose for locals and they've certainly come in droves, but in more recent times we've had lots and lots of tourists coming up through the Bushland Garden and we're getting a lot of positive feedback from those people, so that's really pleasing.
Now that it's much more established, it is up to us to promote this asset for York, and please come and visit.
Do yourself a favour, come and visit the Bushland Garden here in York. It's a beautiful place to come and have a picnic, relax, listen to the birds and observe nature's beauty.